It is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Daniel King. I'm going to read a little bit about his bio so you can get familiar with a little bit of his background, but he's very well known in the community, and we're super excited that we have him here today to share a couple of words for you to take with you. Dr. Daniel King serves as Executive Director at the Region 1 Education Service Center since May of 2022. A longtime public school superintendent, Dr. King was named the 2006 State Superintendent of the Year by the Texas Association of School Boards and has earned numerous state and national distinctions through his career spanning over 4 decades. Under his leadership as superintendent of Pharr-San Juan-Alamo ISD, the district made tremendous progress on some of the most significant challenges facing Texas and the nation. A border school district serving 32,000 students, Dr. King reduced the number of annual dropouts, increased the 4-year graduation rate and overall high school completion rates to surpass state averages by significant margins. During his tenure at PSGA, PSGA became a state and a national model for dropout prevention and recovery, inspiring state legislation, SB 975, and replication of its innovative initiatives across the U.S. Before serving as superintendent of PSGA, Dr. King led Hidalgo ISD for 8 years. Under his leadership, a district that had once been among the lowest performing in the state of Texas became the first early college high school district in the nation. In 2006, Hidalgo High School transitioned into an early college high school for all students. This initiative acted as an accelerant to the already rapidly improving district. Hidalgo ISD already seen a dramatic increase in their performance and was rated exemplary or recognized by TEA for 9 consecutive years. Dropout rates plummeted and graduation rates climbed, while steadily increasing the college enrollment. In 2006, Hidalgo ISD earned the HEB Excellence in Education Award as the most outstanding school district in Texas. And in 2007, U.S. News and World Report named Hidalgo High School the 11th best high school in the nation and number 1 in Texas. In both Hidalgo and PSJA ISD, Dr. King replaced outdated bilingual education models with a dual language or dual immersion program, with the goal of developing college ready for everyone. Dr. King earned his PhD from the University of Texas. His undergraduate and master's level work was completed at the University of Texas at Meriden. You can now join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Daniel King.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back home, right? First of all, I want to start by congratulating and commending the Pharr EDC Foundation for investing in our students. One of the challenges over the years that I've presented over and over to economic development corporations is to spend as much time, effort, and resources investing in your people as are invested in recruiting companies. And investing in the people will pay off because the companies want to go where the people are better educated and have higher level skills. Students, I don't know, as you're sitting there and think about and appreciate the investment that Pharr EDC is making in you. And so think about it in that way. So, investors have a lot of options, right? They can invest in the stock market, they can invest in a new business, they can invest in a lot of things. Pharr EDC has chosen to invest in you. And that really means more than the dollars that you're receiving. What they're doing is they're putting faith in you. If I invest in the stock market in a certain company, it's because I believe that that's going to pay off in the long run, that there's going to be much benefit back to me for that investment. And so the Pharr EDC, when they're investing in you, their belief is that you are going to do tremendous things, that investment is going to pay off, that support. I graduated from high school over 50 years ago, so it's been a good while. Very different world, very different valley. And the little high school that I graduated from, the Alumni Association gave me a $300 scholarship. And to me, back then, in 1972, that was a lot of money. But they invested in me. It paid for my books for the first semester, paid for one semester of books. But to me, that was a lot of money. But more important than the money was that they believed in me. So I always remembered when I was going through the university, I always remembered that somebody had believed in me. So I needed to show that the investment that they made was worth it. And like I said, back then there was a lot of money. I grew up out in the country. I grew up at 8 years old, 1962. I started working in the fields picking cotton. They paid us 2 cents a pound. So you could see that $300 a few years later was to me a good amount of money. It's flat. But they're investing in you. How many of you seniors, graduates, raise your hand? How many of you know for sure what you're gonna major in? Raise your hand if you know for sure what you're gonna major in. Like you've already decided. Okay. How many are not sure what you're gonna major in? Raise your hand. How many haven't quite decided? There you go. That's good. I see a few of those, right? How many of you already know, I already know what I'm going to be doing after I graduate from college? How many of you already know that? Raise your hand. You already know what you're going to do when you graduate from college. Okay. Good. How many of you already have your plan for 10 years from now, 20 years from now? You already kind of have a plan. Raise your hand if you have that. Okay, a few of those. So we have kind of every range of things. Well, so a couple of things I want to tell you. The young lady here and a couple of others that were a little bit shy to raise your hand to say, I'm not sure when we're majoring in college. I'll tell you a couple of things. First of all, some of the ones that raised their hand that said they do know what they're going to major in, some of them are going to change their mind. So don't be surprised about that. Life brings all kinds of changes, all kinds of opportunities. So I'll tell you that if I was sitting where you are right now, I would have been one of those that, in all honesty, when I was graduating, all my friends, I could hear them all, they knew what they were going to do. And I was I felt so weird, I guess, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea what I wanted to do. One of the reasons I liked a lot of things. And then another reason was because I was really, really shy. So, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. When I was a senior in high school, maybe it was my junior year, they gave us an aptitude and interest survey to decide. They asked us all kinds of questions to decide what we would do what we'd be good at for a living, what kind of an occupation would fit us well. So I scored really high on things like forest ranger. I tell people Eskimo, but I scored really high on things like to be out in the middle of nowhere working with nobody. Because I was really shy. I didn't know how to socialize with people. If I went to an event, I kind of stayed in the corner and hoped nobody came up and said too much to me because I didn't really like to talk about myself or engage in conversation. I was really, really shy. My senior year in high school, my mother told me, you've got to take speech as an elective. So I signed up for the speech class. The first day of class, the teacher said, each one of you come up here, tell us your name. And I don't remember exactly, but tell us 3 things about yourself and something you want to do. Well, the whole period I sat in the back of the room and I was just shaking waited for the bell. And by the time the bell rang, every student had gone up except me. I didn't go up. And as soon as the bell rang, then I got up real quick and I ran to the counselor's office and I dropped speech. I'm like, I cannot do that. I cannot get up. Can you believe that right now? I'm like, I cannot get up in front of a group of people and talk to them. So I went to college. And it was a little different from today in that back then they didn't have the strict rules today that you have to only take so many hours, that you're only allowed so many hours for your degree and all that. So there were students that changed major multiple times. I didn't know what I wanted to major in. So I went through 2 years of college not knowing what I wanted to do. And at the end of my sophomore year, an advisor or something called me in and said, you've got to pick something. And so I've been kind of thinking, I thought about business, I thought about, a couple things about me. One, I liked school. I always enjoyed school. School was easy for me and I enjoyed learning. I always liked learning. I liked reading. So I liked school. But I thought about it. I liked school, so school sounded good. And I liked sports a lot. And I had a coach my senior year that had paid some extra attention to me and given me some confidence. I used to be a runner, something you do alone, right? I used to be a runner, and I was a distance runner, a middle distance runner, a distance runner. And I had a coach that believed in me, and he'd talk to me. He'd call me at home before the meet, and he'd tell me, Danny, the first mile, you're going to do this, and then the second mile, and watch for this guy and that guy, and get right on this guy's shoulder, and if you keep right up with him, and then at the end, you sprint when you're so far from the end. And so he'd call me and he'd walk me through the whole race, right? And so I thought about it, and I thought, well, you know what? I'd like to do that for young people, like give them confidence in themselves. Because he helped me in the short time that he worked with me senior year. So finally I said, you know what? I want to be, and I loved reading, I loved history. So I said, I'm going to teach history and I'm going to coach. And so that's what I got into. Well, there was only one problem. When I started taking the education classes, one of the first things they asked that we had to do in almost every class was give a presentation, like do a practice teaching. I was like, oh my goodness. So so literally sometimes there were some classes I just didn't do it. And I'd have an A in the class, I'd get a 0 in the presentation, and I get a C or a B in the course. There were other times that the presentation was supposed to be 30 minutes and mine was 5 minutes. And as soon as I could get back to my seat, I got back to my seat. And I had a couple of professors telling me, how are you ever going to be a teacher because you can't even get up in front of people? And I didn't know, but I knew I wanted to help. I knew I wanted to help kids. I knew I wanted to help kids. Life throws changes at you. My senior year in college, I was getting ready to graduate, but I'll be honest with you, I was kind of nervous about getting out there, and I saw a sign on the bulletin board, and it said graduate assistantships, and that they pay you a certain amount of money to be a graduate assistant, get your master's while you served as an assistant to professors, right? So I signed up for that. I got accepted. And so I stayed at the university another year. That was nice. That was my comfort zone, right? So I stayed another year. Well, right before the first semester starts, they call us in, the graduate assistants, and they say, you're in going to teach a class. You're going to... So I hadn't realized that. I was actually going to be a college teacher. I didn't know that. I thought I was going to help a teacher. So the first day, the students come in, it's a freshman class, and they start calling me Dr. King. They didn't know any better. They were freshmen. They didn't know I was just 3 or 4 years older than them and was scared to death, right? So they started calling me Dr. King and all this. So I started building up my confidence, like, hey, they think I'm a professor, So then I started acting like a professor, and, it worked out okay. So by the end of the year, when I went out looking for a teaching job and got a teaching job, it was like, hey, high school kids are easy. I've taught, college kids. And, different things happened. Well, a few years later, I only taught 5 years. I taught and coached 5 years. A few years later, I found myself almost by accident. Well, when I first started teaching and coaching, my mentor would leave me along with the sports team because he was going to college. He was going to, and I said, what do you, he said, can you take him by yourself? Because I'm going to, I've got classes on Tuesday and Thursday night or whatever. I go, what are you going to school for? He said, oh, I'm studying to be an administrator. And I said, oh, what's that about? He said, yeah, well, maybe I can be an assistant principal. And, in his mind, he's like, I can have an office and all this kind of stuff, right? And I didn't know much about that, but I thought I like school. So I signed up and I started taking classes. Well, a few years later, I only taught 5 years. I wound up being selected as an assistant principal without ever having had a plan to be one. One of the things I'll tell you in everything you do, when I was a teacher, I always gave it my all. I really cared about my students. I worked really hard. Anything they needed at the school, the principal, if there was a teacher absent, I'd cover their class in my conference. I'd just volunteer to cover their class. I would go out on duty without, even if it wasn't my turn, I'd go out and just help. If I saw help was needed somewhere, I'd just go help. And all I was doing was trying to help. But in the end, it turned out that very quickly, I became an assistant principal. And after only 1 year as an assistant principal, I became a principal. I was 28 years old, I became a principal. And the more I got into it, the more I started realizing and what was driving me, because I'll never forget when I first became an assistant principal, because as a teacher, I was like, you know what? I can talk to kids. I can teach a class. I can talk to kids. If an adult came in to do, I'd get really kind of nervous, if an adult came in. Well, I got named an assistant principal. My first day on the job, the principal gives me some materials and he says, the first day the teachers come in, you're going to present this to them. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't present to adults. But I had to do that. Then I became a principal. Then I became a superintendent. Every step of the way, focusing more, and the way I overcame what I was afraid of, the way I overcame my weaknesses, was that I was focused on how could I help the people around me that needed help? How could I help the students to do better? So because I was focused on that, I became less focused, less self-conscious, and less focused on what I was doing. How can I help them? How can I help the teachers that are struggling? How can I help the students that are not passing? How can I help the students that are not dropping out? How can I help them? So a couple of things that I'll leave with you. One, whatever you're giving, do it to the best of your ability. Whatever job you're in, whatever work you're in, always leave it better than you found it. Always leave everything better than you found it. My father taught us since we were very little. By the way, I'm number 5 of 10 children. So I tell people I have middle child syndrome on steroids, because if you're in the middle of 3 and that's middle child syndrome, I'm the middle of 10, right? So I got brothers and sisters on either side of me. But my dad used to always tell us, when you have a job, always do more than what they pay you for. Always leave a job knowing that, and a lot of people think the opposite. See, a lot of people are I'm not going to they only pay me this much. I'm only going to do this much. Or there's even people that are if I can do less and get the same salary, then I'm good. But my father taught us, always do more than what you're paid for. Always leave a job knowing that you contributed more than you got paid. And so that's something that I've always kind of kept in me. So that's one. 2, always work on improving yourself, improving your talents, improving your skills, learning. 3, be open to opportunities. I just mentioned when I asked how many of you know what you're going to major in, how many know what you're going to do. Guess what? Most of the adults I talk to, the majority of them, ask the adults around, the majority of them are not doing what they thought they were going to do. The majority of them are not doing what they thought. I thought I was the oddball because I didn't know what I was going to do. Now looking back, I realized that a lot of the others thought they knew what they were going to do, but life changes you. Even more today, you know why? Because they tell us what? Now it's, before they used to say computers, robots. Now it's what? Artificial intelligence, right? So we don't even know what are going to be the jobs tomorrow. Which jobs are going to be gone? Which jobs are going to change? Which are going to be the new jobs? And so we don't know. But life's going to give you opportunities. Life's going to give you opportunities. In my case, because I was always eager to learn and I was always trying to do more than what my job was, because I was focused on helping people. I wanted the school that I worked at to be a better school. So if I saw something need to be cleaned up, I would clean it up. If I saw some kids were unsupervised, I'd go hang out in that area to make sure everything was going to be fine. I always wanted where I was to be the best. And so if you do that, and then second of all, be open to opportunities. I never dreamed that I would be a superintendent. To be a superintendent of a large district like PSA with 32,000 students, 5,000 employees. You know, when I started out, I couldn't make, years ago when I first became a principal, it was hard for me to make decisions. It was hard for me to tell people, like, no, because they want to do this, they want to do it. It's hard for me to tell people. I was the middle child. Guess what the middle child does? In most families, usually the middle child is the peacemaker, the one that kind of problem solves and doesn't take either side of the argument. So I was always more like that. Well, I had to learn to be a decision maker because as I moved up in the career, so I had to learn on that. I had to learn to speak in front of people. When I first started giving speeches, I would write it word for word, and I would go right down here and I would read the whole thing, and I would never even look at the audience. I would just read it. Over the years, I changed to doing outlines, and now I could go to the outline and fill in the difference, right? Then from outlines, I went to bullet points and keywords, where I would just take a paper up with a few keywords to remind me what I wanted to talk about. And now, most of the time now, I come up and I just speak from the heart with no notes. Not bad for a guy that dropped speech his senior year because he didn't want to get up and tell the class his name, right? And two things about himself. So what I'm telling you there is work on yourself, invest in yourself. One of the richest men in the world, I don't know if you've heard of him or not. You know, if I was going to say Elon Musk, everybody heard of him, right? If I was going to say, who else? Think something, the richest people in the world. Bill Gates. Look at that. How old are you? 8 years old. Bill Gates, just like that. I tell you what. So one you may not have heard of because it's not as flashy, and he just announced that he's going to retire, but Warren Buffett. How many have heard of Warren Buffett? Okay, so a few, not as many, because he's not so flashy, but he's like number 5 in the world. He's 93. He's been number 1 sometimes in the past. He's been the wealthiest man in the world at times. It rotates. But he was asked recently, in this world today, where everything's uncertain, the stock market goes way up one day, way down the very next day. Everybody doesn't know, is there going to be high inflation? Are we going to go into a depression? We have all the tariffs. We have just all the different things going on, like AI is coming in. What jobs is AI going to take? So Warren Buffett was asked, what would you tell somebody today that wants to know where to put their money in these uncertain times? His answer was, invest in yourself. Get a better education. Improve your skills. and you'll be ready no matter what the world brings. You'll be ready no matter what the world brings. So keep that in mind, young people. Keep investing in yourself, learning and growing. Know your strengths. Know your strengths and use those. Know your weaknesses and see which ones of those you can actually build. I'm still changing. I'm 71 years old, and I'm still changing. And I'm still going to grow some more. I'm going to change some more. I'm going to improve certain areas that I need to improve on some more. So never stop growing, never stop learning, never stop changing. Also be nimble, be quick on your feet, because a door of opportunity may open that may be something you hadn't even thought of. I had never thought of being a principal or assistant principal. A door might open, but you know what? Other people started seeing that in me and telling me, like my second year of teaching, people were telling me, you're going to be a superintendent. Like, what are you talking about? And they were talking about my work ethic, the way that I stayed calm in a crisis, the way that I handled things, the way I helped everybody, the way I cared about the school. And I just told them, like, you're crazy. But other people saw that. I want to close with this. Parents, thank you so much for everything that you've done for your children, supporting them, supporting the school as they go through school. It makes all the difference in the world to them. And, you're sitting there and I can see how many of you, this is your first child to graduate. This is going to be your first one to graduate. Okay. All the other parents are looking and saying, they'll learn, right? Like, so they get to this point and you're like, yeah, I'm done. 18 years, they're on their own. So the parents, if you already have kids that graduated, what can you tell them? Are you done yet? When they graduate, you're not done yet. They're still going to need you. Some of them will act like they don't, but they're still going to need you. It's still going to be important for them that you're there. And they still might want that, I guess now, I used to say checkbook, now it's a debit card or whatever. They're still going to want that debit card or whatever it is, right? So, young people, stay close to your parents. Padres de familia, quiero darles las gracias por todo que han hecho, por todo el apoyo que han dado a sus hijos, para trabajar mano en mano con las escuelas, para que ellos siguieran adelante, para que tuvieran éxito en sus estudios. Ya van a pasar a otra etapa, pero todavía van a necesitar su apoyo, sus consejos y quizás el tarjeta de crédito.
It's just that. How do you exactly? So what do you think?
Les estaba diciendo que hay que seguir trabajando en ellos mismos. En Fundación de Pharr EDC está invirtiendo en tus hijos, que ellos tomen esa oportunidad para investir en sus mismos, para que sigan adelante, que pongan metas altas, pero que estén listos para cambiar, cuando abre otra puerta de oportunidad que quizás no habían pensado o imaginado, porque el mundo está cambiando rápidamente. Les estaba explicando mi carrera. Yo tengo ya 48 años de experiencia en la educación. 2 años más luego, con 50 años en mi trabajo. Durante estos años, el mundo ha cambiado y yo también he cambiado. Cuando yo era joven y podía hablar adelante en frente de un grupito de gente. Hoy lo hago, todavía no es mi actividad favorita, pero hablando con jóvenes sí. Hoy lo hago con facilidad. Cuando yo estaba sentado ahí como sus hijos, yo ni podía hablar español, no sabía español. Entendí un poquito, no hablaba nada. Ahora puedo hablar en español, más o menos. Me pueden dar mi calificación después, pero pero me pueden entender. Entonces, todos nosotros estamos edificando nuestro futuro cada día. Yo todavía tengo futuro. Ustedes como padres todavía tienen futuro. Sus hijos tienen futuro. Tenemos que edificar nuestro futuro. Muchas gracias para la fundación de Pharr EDC para invertir en tus hijos. Gracias.